Welcome everybody. What a lovely day it's been. Sorry, welcome everybody, and a lovely day it's been, and it's wonderful to be here with you all. By tradition, it's my turn to speak and compliment my wonderful, charming, beautiful daughter. So we shouldn't be here too long. Some of you will remember that just over 25 years ago, I was standing here in a marquee giving a speech, but then as a groom. And who would have thought that we'd be back here so soon? So thank you all for joining us today to celebrate Kate and George, Mr. and Mrs. Havercroft. And some of you have come from afar, from Australia, the USA, Dubai, South Africa, Scotland, and some from a little closer. John and Wheat, who are here, live next door and have kindly let us use their field. I'd also like to thank Phil and Nikki, George's mum and dad, for their contributions towards today. It's been wonderful. While I'm in the thank you mode, can I thank Kathy and Richard for the wonderful food. To Charlotte for keeping Kate calm and us sane. To Jerry, who seems to have spent the last year on today. To everybody else, I'm sure I've missed lots of people for their contributions and help, and especially to George for being so brave, because without him, you wouldn't be here today. Kate was a lovely child. She, I don't know if you know, she was always up first in the morning. Her feet would be running as soon as they touched the floor. And she would often cause me to cut myself shaving by slapping me on the bum. And she walked as she went past, calling out "Morning, Daddy." And she's always been very physical and strong. And from the age of about 6, she would have demonstrated this by having a lifting competition with Rob. And the task was either to lift me up, and then the major challenge would be then to lift Grandpa off the ground. Needless to say, Kate always won. As a young child, Kate had conjunctivitis, and we had to give her eye drops. It took both Jerry and me to pin her down, and that was with me sitting on top of her and pinning her arms down. Many years later, I caught conjunctivitis and had to have eye drops. And I was sitting on the side of the bed, and I asked Kate if she would give me a hand to put the eye drops in. And with that, Kate hit me backwards, jumped across me, and sat on my chest, pinning down my arms. When I asked her what she was doing, she said that's how she thought you could eye drop. We then decided that maybe a future in medicine wasn't for Kate. We've known Phil and Nikki over the years, and in fact George's grandfather John and my father were friends back in the 1950s. Then about 3 years ago we started to hear the name George Havercroft, and Kate was in contact with him on Facebook, and I think we're going to hear a bit more about that later. Eventually we were allowed to be introduced to George, and George was invited to a St Paul's surfing day down in Devon, but we were asked not to speak to him as he was shy. This, we realised, was not the case. George at this time had his Citroen Saxo. Some of you might remember it. It's an absolutely wonderful car. It had more spoilers and skirts than an F1 car. It had a straight-through exhaust that meant that as he came off the A38 we could hear him. And our neighbours loved it because at 1 in the morning we had about a 5-minute lead up to George dropping things off. Luckily it was so unreliable that we actually didn't last too long, George. We've had the pleasure of seeing George and Kate grow together over the last few years, and what a lovely couple they do make. Yeah. They're very similar in many ways, and both have a habit of speaking before they think. There's a few stories we could have here, George. So here's just a couple. They were looking... You're going to miss out the pregnant duck, don't worry. They were looking to replace one of their cars and searching for a suitable car on the internet. And for those who are not local, there's a little village nearby here called Locking. And here's a good one, says George. And how far is it, says Kate. Oh, very close, says George. It's in central locking. At this point, Kate was giving George a bit of a worried look. And that was my favourite time. Actually, this one, which my brother involved in. When George was complimenting my brother Alistair, he's the vain one sitting in the corner, on his beard. Yes, and how good it looked, and George was saying it looked very good, and there's much better he looked with it. And then he added, because he'd looked a bit like a thunderbird before. At this point, Alistair wasn't quite sure how to take it, and I had to leave the room, falling over. They're also very sporty, both of them, and Kate as a child had to be exercised regularly, otherwise she was from 0 to 1. And she also, this happens if she gets hungry. So George, could you make sure you feed her regularly? And I was going to say keep her well exercised, but I think to say give her plenty of runs. So we've got to know George very well over the last couple of years. And what a lovely young man he is, and he's been very much part of the family and always willing to help and join in. And we're really pleased and want to welcome George to the family. Welcome, George. Woo! And Kate, well, Kate was a lovely child. She's always bright and lively, and she has now become a beautiful, lovely young lady, and still very bright and lively. And George, in my unbiased view, you're a very fortunate young man, and together you make a wonderful couple, and I'm sure you have a great future together. So can I ask you all to be upstanding for the toast?